Hello, everyone. Today I have the great pleasure to talking to Romina Shema, from
Right.
an architect from Buenos Aires. And yeah, it's a real pleasure to have you on, Romina. And maybe you can share a little bit about yourself, and your journey to becoming an architect.
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure. So, yeah, about me. I have been an architect for 25 years now. I live in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I have always worked mostly in Argentina. My first years, I started at Deloitte, which is, I don't know if you know it, it's an
Hmm.
international
Consultant
company.
firm. Yes, of course.
Yeah. My first year since I graduated, I started working there because they had to move the main offices of Deloitte
Mm.
to another building. So I was lucky enough to be contacted by the architect who was working and designing the new offices.
Ah, wow.
So my first years, I had a great job. We have been working almost a year and a half to move four. There were it was a building with four
Floors.
stories.
Floors.
Yeah, and we have to move them to two larger stories, one block away.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
it was a lot of people, and the design it was exceptional as a first work because we have to work with lots of people and think a lot of um logistics because we had to move the people while they were working. So it was a great experience because the thing is that when you get out of the university, you don't have a lot of experience. And that for me is a very important issue that colleges today would have to think about.
Mm.
In my case, I went to a private university here in Buenos Aires. It was a very good university. But the thing is that we had a lot of theory, but we didn't have a lot of experiences.
Mm. Mhm.
So, if my father, I remember, told me when I was about in the fourth year of my career, it's 6 years to become an architect in here in Argentina. He told me start having some experience.
Mm.
The thing is that those days I actually didn't sleep because I was studying day and night. So
Mhm.
I didn't have a lot of time
Mm. Mhm.
to work also, but
Yes.
I did start working several days a week. And and it was great because I started having some experience. I wanted to work with someone. I did start working with an architect, a female architect, and she mainly worked in reforms. And she showed me a little bit of the real world, how to
Mhm.
deal with a client, how to listen to the client, and what the client wanted, how to work with a budget
Mm.
that I'm going to speak about later. That's very important. And I had a really great experience. Then, when I was finishing my career, I started this work at Deloitte, which was huge.
Mhm.
And then after that, after a year and a half, when we finished that job, actually the company received another area that was financial.
Mm. Mhm.
Within that area of financial services, they had a little area called real estate. They
Mm.
were starting with real estate. So they asked me if I wanted to work for them. So after that job, I worked for 5 years mainly in the financial area of
Mhm.
architecture. I didn't work a lot in building or designing, but it was a very good experience because I think those days was able to know a lot of important business people
Mhm.
because Deloitte was such a huge company that it showed me how to work with Excels. I actually started the first real estate newsletter in Argentina.
Mm, mm,
Yeah, that was very interesting. Yeah, because we had to have some kind of measurements of how much the cost of building a square meter was, depending on several areas. We didn't have that yet
mhm,
in Argentina. So I I started that idea, and it was very important because Deloitte was the only company that had that newsletter. Nowadays, there are several other people that do this, but in those days, 20 years ago, it was kind of
mhm.
huge.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, then I worked there 5 years and I kind of felt stuck in there. I wanted to build, I wanted to design. So I started my own company. I started building my own home.
Mhm.
Um, Actually, I moved to. I'm going to tell you the concept of where I live, and I moved 20 years ago. This is a very different concept where I live. It's kind of a private community, but it is a very large private community. The concept was it's unique in Argentina also because it has several private neighborhoods within the community,
Mm,
which is
mhm.
also private. It's called Nordelta. You can Google then
Okay.
and you can learn about it because it's a very interesting concept, and it has its own everything. We have our own schools. We have six schools. We have our own shopping mall. We have almost 20 private neighborhoods within the
Oh,
city.
wow.
Yeah, it has its own offices, buildings. It has a hotel, a huge hotel. It's very interesting if you want to then learn about it because it's kind of unique. There's nothing similar in all Argentina, and I don't know if it replicates in other cities or countries. So I started living and working here with my own company as an architect.
Yeah, wow.
So I started working with another architect. It was a friend of mine who was a friend from my university. So we started working designing and building homes,
Mhm,
which was what I loved most. I loved designing homes because I always thought that it was amazing the fact that something that came from my mind, an idea, a concept, would finish in a space that a family would live for several years. So for me it was great. It was very gratifying to start working with families, with people with dreams and other illusions to have their first homes. So it was a very nice new area for me because I came from Deloitte. It was a very different kind of job.
mhm.
What we were talking about a little bit earlier about what you do when you leave college. The thing is that I think the university prepares you for a huge amount of things that you can do as an architect. You can do a lot of things. You can design buildings, you can design museums, you can, I don't know, little jobs, you can do reforms, you can do, I don't know, a lot of things. But it's important that you have in mind what you love most about the architecture. I always loved architecture, but most of all, I love interior design. So, home interior design. So,
Mhm.
I always wanted to work
Yeah.
as that. So, it was kind of amazing that I could reach that point where I could basically didn't depend on anyone but me. But the other counterpart of that is that when you become your own boss, is that you have to try to have a job permanently or a client or something. And here in Argentina, we have a kind of very difficult economy. So it's a challenge in itself to be able to have a job or a client permanently.
Mm-mm.
I think that is what has been my greatest challenge during my 25 years. Yeah.
Thank you.
So far, so good. You have
Yeah.
any questions?
Oh yes, I have a bunch of questions.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much, Romina, for giving us such an honest and view about your career as an architect. And it's also very nice to learn more about the path you took. So that's great. I wanted to ask you at the beginning. You shared about that when you finished. Or you shared about the advice that your father gave you with getting experience as an architect. And I
Yeah.
wanted to ask if you can maybe share some advice and tips for how to get that experience. What would you recommend? And with working with other architects, maybe also how you would approach them.
Well, um, first of all, I my first job actually with that architect I told you about. She lived very far from where I lived and from my college. And actually, I was telling you that time I truly didn't sleep. I slept
Mm,
very few hours because it's a very difficult career,
mm,
actually. So, or at least it was difficult for me. It took a lot of sacrifice and time, but actually, I graduated with one of the highest averages. I truly worked a lot. I didn't have a life. So yeah, but I loved it. So yeah, first of all, you have to love this career. Truly, it doesn't matter if you like a part of it, you won't love. I don't think you won't love everything about it, but it's a career for truly passionate people that actually really care about architecture. So my first job with this female architect, I approached her because she was an acquaintance of my father, actually. And she told me that she couldn't pay me a lot. Actually, she barely paid me something, but it was the experience that was important because my father at the time told me that I wouldn't be able to reach a bigger job without having some experience. So I didn't have the need, of course, to have a job because I couldn't afford where I lived or I truly needed it. So I went for the experience. I stayed there, I think, a year or around a year and a half. Um, Actually, what I helped her with is with AutoCAD, which is the program that you generally use in architecture. Um, Stay in mind that on those days, I was around 23. I'm now 49. And at that time, you did the career by hand. You
mm,
didn't, AutoCAD wasn't even a thing.
mm, mm,
I- so it was new for me too. But for this architect, it was something that she didn't handle. She didn't know how to use it. So what she needed me most was to produce
mm,
all the designs in AutoCAD.
mm, mm,
So I went with her. I had the meetings with the clients. I asked her to please take me with her so
mm,
I could see what the job was about, because I didn't want only to be um,
Yeah.
doing the sketches in AutoCAD. I
Yes.
wanted to meet the people, see what the job demanded. So they weren't huge jobs at the beginning, but it was a very good experience because of that, because I was able to interact with the people and mainly value that sometimes you could reach a bigger job, but sometimes you had little clients, and it was okay also, because she worked for herself and she was her own boss, and I loved that. I
Mm,
wanted that. I never truly wanted to work in a huge company or make buildings or museums. I wasn't on that branch. I wanted houses. I wanted designs, homes.
mm,
I wanted interior design. That was my aim. So that's what I was telling about. You have a huge amount of things that you can pursue. It depends on what you like about architecture. So that was my first approach. And that experience was what was important for me, because when I had to do the other job, the offices at Deloitte, it was very important that they had someone young, because you have to do all the little things at the beginning, but you had to have some experience. So truly, my advice would be try to land any type of job, small, big, medium. If you have the opportunity to do it for free, do it, because it will be a kind of a starting point for your next bigger job. You need the experience. You need to talk to clients. You need to turn around and talk to the people uh, in the construction. You have to be able to talk to them, to make yourself. You have to be respected by the people who work for you. I was very young, a female in a men's world at the time. It wasn't so usual to have such a young person, female, in such a big job when I started at Deloitte.
yeah.
So I respected um, mainly all the people who worked there, and they respected me. I earned that trust. So I learned a lot. I listened a lot, which I know you do too. You're a very good
I
listener,
think.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen your other podcast, and it's very important because you learn. And I today nowadays, 25 years later, I still listen a lot to the people that work for me, because you have a specialist of each area. You have the painter, you have the plumber, you have the electrician, and I love to learn from them. I
Mm,
don't go to any job kind of in a as a huge star. I'm the architect. I come here knowing everything. No, that's not the point. I go there with a lot of respect, listening, and of course you have to know a little bit about everything,
mm,
so that you can handle the different people that are working in a reform, or when you construct or you're doing a construction. Because when I started making the houses, you have kind of around 10 to 15 people depending on you and
mm,
what you say. So the respect is both ways.
mhm.
Sometimes you're going to know what to do. Sometimes you have to learn from the people with more experience. So respect, listen, um, and as I was saying before, try to have as much experience as you can.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Romina.
of course.
That advice. Um, and yeah, I totally agree that otherwise you cannot get better if you don't are willing to look and learn from other people. Mm, I wanted to ask you, and you mentioned it earlier also, that in architecture or in some projects, like for example when you're working with Deloitte, or I think in architecture, being an architect and working as an architect in general, you are involved with a lot of different people, like you were saying, and it's so much more than just yourself and your designs. There are so many other tasks that you have to do, and maybe you can share a little bit about um, what um, what were the struggles you experienced at in that stage of also being a manager of sorts.
Yeah, of course. Well, as I was telling you before, when I started that first job,
Mm,
there were 100 workers in the offices,
mm,
in the Deloitte offices.
yeah.
So it was a lot.
Mm,
Um, what did I do then? I went to the person with the most authority
mm,
among the workers.
mhm,
So I started making friends with him.
mhm,
I told him that I didn't come as the architect knowing it all,
mhm,
so I wanted to learn basically, and he respected a lot when I told him that, and he kind of, I don't know what it was, but he kind of took me under his wing.
mhm,
So every day I went to the work. He would show me how to do several things, how to
mm,
manage people. All people working there respected him a lot. So I went to the highest person
mhm,
and made friends with him, uh, and show him my respect and told him that I wanted to learn from him because he already had kind of 10 to 15 years doing this job.
mhm.
Um, in that in that job in particular, it was so many people working. I'm sorry.
No
It
way.
was so many people working that I wasn't able to know every person working there, but
Mm,
since it took a long time, I tried to reach for the most important people. The most important person in the electrical area,
mhm,
the plumber area, the layout, because we had to do a very important layout. The layout basically was because we had to make sure it was hierarchy kind of layout. So
mhm,
we have the main offices all around the floor. Then we have the management kind of boxes in the middle,
mhm.
and the people who worked in larger tables in the
Mm,
middle of the floor.
yeah.
So it was very interesting as a project, but it took several steps. You have to, when you do such a big job like this one, you have to be, and in any other job in architecture, you have to be very um, kind of trained in the steps that you have to take,
Mm, mm,
because you have to first talk to the client and see their needs, listen to their needs. That's the first
mm,
step.
mm.
For instance, when I made homes for a
Yeah.
family or a client, first it takes kind of a month or a month and a half to know what layout they want
Mhm,
out of a house, what they need, if they need 2 3 bedrooms, if they need 3 bathrooms, if they want, I don't know, it depends on the land. You have to know where it's going to be built, so you have to know the layout, everything that you have to take in consideration. I always start with something that I already have as a layout, and I show them 2 or 3 layouts and see what they like about every one of them.
yeah.
So when they tell me what they like about one or two, I kind of try to bring it up to one house. And
Yes.
then we start the layout from there, right? So all that steps, it takes at least a month or 2 months to make all the finishing drawings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after that, you have to be able to do, at least I do it. I do a budget and I do an Excel, a very detailed Excel with the months that you have for the construction and the items that are involved in the construction. And item by item, I tell them when they have to pay each each thing. For instance, at first you have to buy most mainly the materials so you can freeze the prices. So they have an important payment to do at the beginning of a construction, and then in in the Excel, you have to tell them at least during the rest of the 9 months, which takes an average house to build. You have to tell them which payments they have to know
Mm-hmm.
or to do. So if you are able to do that to the client will have a kind of security. They will feel at ease because you kind of make them know in
Mm-hmm.
advance all the payments they have to do, how it's going to be the construction, what to expect. Because of course, in a construction, you will always have a problem. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost impossible not to have a problem. So you're a genius if you don't have a problem, or you're hiding it. one or one or the other. So you will have to face a problem. The thing is that you have to keep them secure and make them feel at ease with that. So one of the most important things is that you you can express and in advance what the financial situation will be and which are the steps that they are going to be involved. That is very important for the clients, and I think that kind of was a very important thing in my experience because I still am friends with most of my clients, and that's
Ah, yeah.
a lot to say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, and I have been working in here, as I was telling you, in Nordelta, which is a city.
mhm.
It's not huge, but it is a city, and everyone knows everyone. So if you don't do a great job, you
Yeah,
won't have a new job.
yeah,
You have to be good to be able to keep working here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Romina, for taking us through the process through the process to get the okay, first of all, from the client, because after all, that's what you need before you can start with the rest of it. And I thought it was very interesting that you shared from learning about what the client needs and wants, because I think that's also really important part. And there's so many things you could do wrong or you could forget about learning and taking the just taking the client with you. And I wanted to ask also mm, the phase of the budgeting, and if you can share a little bit about that and the importance it has, because I've not heard so much about it yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, of course, actually, my experience at Deloitte in the financial area
Yes.
gave me a lot of experience in that part because it's not very important. At least when I studied at college, they didn't show you that part, and it's
Mm,
a most important thing with a client because at least here with our constant economic crisis, the budget is, I think, the number one thing for the clients. So yeah, it's a very
mhm,
important issue that you mentioned. So if you don't do something, at least as I told you before,
yeah.
a previous budget You do an Excel with all the months that you need for your construction,
Mm,
whichever it is. It can be a building, it can be a house, it can be whatever. But you have to schedule everything. You have to know how many months it will take for
mm,
you to construct your home in this case.
mhm,
For me, it was between 9 to 10 months. You always have to know that you may have 1 month previous to the construction that you need to organize
yeah,
everything. For instance, you have to know that the client gives you the money to buy the materials, so the materials are on site
mm, mm,
before you start the construction,
yeah,
because if not, you can't begin.
yeah,
Uh, so the first month is mostly the first month. I kind of schedule in my Excel is for organization and to pay for the materials and to know that I'm going to have everything I need once I start the construction, right?
mm, mhm,
So after that, in my case, it was the 9 months. I go item by item with everything they have to pay. For
mhm,
instance, at the beginning, you have the construction and the structural part of the house. So that is a huge part
yeah,
because it's very important for you to be on site when you do the structure part. Um, I usually do that part with an engineer because they have to know exactly, they have to do a layout of the columns and all the
yeah,
structure parts that,
yeah,
yeah. So I work with another engineer in that part. And you have to be on site almost every day because if something goes wrong there,
mm,
you have a huge problem. Actually, they are building two houses from my actual house
mhm,
that had a huge problem with the structure
mm,
because one beam wasn't correctly designed and
yeah,
it broke.
oh God, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it broke actually. So they had to stop the construction.
mm,
Actually, they were finishing the third floor and they had to tear it down and
uh,
they had to tear down the second floor also
yeah,
because this beam broke
yeah,
and they had to start all over again. And it's a huge amount of money
yeah,
because the structure is one of the most expensive things in a house
mm,
or in any building.
yeah,
So it is very important to be there. And I asked actually the architect if he was on site the day that happened, and he told me he wasn't.
uh,
So for me, that's a huge mistake.
yeah,
So I don't recommend that. You have to be there.
mm,
Be there. So yeah, then you have, for instance, you finish the structure and then you start with the bricks. You you start kind of the layout of the house with the bricks, and it's amazing because when you start building the walls, you kind of see the spaces. That is amazing. It's an amazing part of the construction because you imagine them that when you see them it's a whole different thing.
mm,
Once you build the walls, then you have to start with all the electrics, the plumbing, because you have to do that
yes,
when the
mhm,
walls are still with the bricks and you have to cut and whatever. So the next step, basically, in a house, you have to uh, after you did all that part, it depends, of course, on how many floors you have to build, and then you start with the ceiling, with the second floor, you finish with the structure, and then you have to start when you're finishing with that, then you have to start with all the inside of the house, right? You have to start with the finishings of the walls, the paintings, the finishings of the materials. And that is all that you have to have been planning on your Excel
mm,
so that the client knows. okay, now we're in, I don't know, the fifth month of the construction. Now I have to pay for the
Mm-hmm.
painters,
Mm-hmm.
or I have to pay for part of the electrics, or I have to start thinking about all the appliances or the finishes or the floors.
Mm-hmm.
And they usually do that at the end. The
Mm-hmm.
finishings, people try to choose them on the end
Mm-hmm.
once they see the house. So you have to have some kind of budget for that too.
Yeah.
If they choose anything else, then of course they have to know that
Mm-hmm.
they can have a little bit of movement in the budget, but
Yeah.
it depends on them.
Yeah.
But you have to tell them previously. So you have to be very clear about every step of your construction. If you are clear, then you take the anxiety out of the client. And I think that it's a very important thing, because when you are in this kind of economies where people struggle to make their houses,
Yeah.
mainly in other countries it's not that important, or I don't know, but here it's very important. So you have to be careful, because you have a lot of inflation in
Mm-hmm.
here in Argentina. So from one month to the other, the costs vary a lot. O
Mm-hmm.
sea, I mean, you can have a 10 to 15% increase in one month to the next. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
So if you can prevent that and
Yeah.
tell your customer, for instance, well, we're going to pay for all the materials at the beginning, so you don't have
Yeah.
um this improvement or this increase in your budget.
Yeah.
They will make the effort, but they're going to be kind of at ease that they have already all the materials on
Yeah.
site.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to be very kind of details in that sense, and you have to prevent all of that, because it's one of the most important things in here, at least, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to make them feel that they're not going to have huge problems, that you have the experience, that you have kind of you're calm because you have the experience, you know what they can go through, and you're going to do your best to try to avoid all those problems from
Yeah.
them. So yeah, also, I mean, at the beginning, if you don't have the experience, try to talk to someone that you work for or that you're going to work for, and try to learn from that those steps,
Yeah.
which things to prevent, because you're going to get a lot of more clients in that way. If they see that you care, if they see that you want to avoid all that kind of pressure from them, I think that is very, very important to talk before you start the construction, whichever work it is. That one is, I think, the most important pain point for them.
Mm.
The anxiety, the financial issues. Then, of course, you have other things. You have to, I don't know, work with the layouts previously. You have to know which type of house they want, which type of, I don't know, if they want a modern house, if they like something else, if it's going to be functional, or if they don't care.
Yeah.
And that's around the layout. And it's another part of the things that you have to know
Yeah.
previously. But at least in here, I think one of the most important things is to be able to tell them which are the costs during the construction, and yeah, that's very important for them.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Romina. And thank you also for taking us to the steps. And I'm 100% with you. I think also building a house is the biggest investment, or certainly one of the biggest investment a person does.
Totally.
And it's always a lot of money. So it's also nice to be able to pay for it step by step, and not having it all
Yeah.
over at once or all at the end. And then it's like, so much. I wanted to ask you, Romina, from your experience, what is the biggest mistakes architects do in regards of budget? budgeting, and how would you advise to avoid it?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think I was very lucky because I came from a financial background.
Mhm.
I think those 5 years gave me that experience that not every architect has,
Yeah,
because I saw it with other friends of mine who are architects, and they didn't have a clue on how to work in Excel or how to make a real budget.
yeah.
So I think I was lucky in that sense because I didn't really loved those years because I wasn't doing what I loved,
Mm,
the construction and the design. But it gave me a huge experience because actually after that I worked with several investors that wanted to. At that time, it was a very good business to build homes and
yeah,
then sell them. So I contacted a lot of investors because it was very clear for them that I came from this background and I was able to do this Excels and talk to them about the budgets with the
yeah,
security of knowing which steps they would take. And they were very at ease, I would say.
yeah,
They didn't believe that an architect knew so much about finance.
yeah,
They came from a finance branch
yeah,
and they couldn't believe it. So I would say that if you don't know how to, you have to learn. You have to know how to handle this kind of things and times and costs before you start a new construction, a new job. That is key. You have to learn it.
mm,
I think that is one of the most common mistakes I saw in other friends or architects that they didn't had a clue on how to, at least they didn't have a clue how to present the
yeah,
budget. They didn't how to let the client know how much time it would take, or they would say, this is very typical here. To grab a job, they would tell them that it costs X, and they knew that it would cost X plus 10,
mm,
but to be able to get the job, they would say that the budget was lower.
yeah,
So then the client would have the surprise that it was X plus
yeah,
10,
yeah,
and then you had a huge problem. So that's not the idea. That's not how I work.
yeah,
I prefer to lose a client, but I never lied about it. I would say how much it was going to cost. I kept my word. And another thing that it's very important is to know how much time it will involve, because a lot of architects also tend to tell the people, for instance, that a house you can build in 7 to 8 months,
mm,
and you are not able to build at least the kind of houses I built
mm,
in that time. I knew it because you have a lot of other
mm,
things that can happen, not only because you have problems in the construction in itself, because sometimes people don't show up,
mm,
or sometimes you have a whole week or 2 weeks of rain or whatever that
mm,
you can't work. So you have to be very specific with that. And you have to know that you will always have 1 or 2 months at least
yeah,
more than you expect. It is better to say to your clients that it will take 9 to 10 months. And if you finish on the eighth or ninth month,
yeah,
it's great because they would say, great, you
mm, mm,
you you
very good.
finished before you said.
Yeah,
But it's better that than to say you're going to
yeah,
take 8 months and you're in the eighth month of the construction and you're still missing the painting, the finishes, and there you go crazy. The client's going to hate you, and it's a very unpleasant relationship when you finish that way. So
mm,
I'm proud, as I told you before, that it wasn't my case. I always been very respectful with that. I prefer to lose clients, but I always go with the truth. I tell them what they will spend and how much time it would spend. So I try to keep my word, and I didn't have huge problems, at least with anyone. Not for that, at least.
Great. Yes, that's good.
You have
Um,
a large variety of customers. Of course, they are not always very pleasant, but
yeah.
if you keep your word and they see that you are experienced and professional, I think at least you earn the respect.
Mm,
So that is very important, because
mm,
that's the only way that people is going to tell other people that you're a good architect, and then they will recommend you, and then you have gained another client, and so on and so on.
yeah, that's true. Mm. Thank you very much, Romina. That was really interesting to hear, and something I have also not learned about yet at all, and I'm not even sure if there's so much focused on the budgeting part in architecture school, although it's such an important thing, especially already for, like you said, putting the client at ease, knowing that there are no unexpected surprises, maybe. Mm, I wanted to, I recently did an internship actually at a construction site to see
Great.
a little bit how it is there also, and I also had the chance to talk to the architect who was there, as well as the construction workers that were involved. And often it happened quite often that we were not able to continue working because, like you were saying, either the materials were not there as planned. And what also happened very often was that there was difficulties communicating between the architect and then also the different shareholders, like you were saying, the plumber, um, the the people who do the roof, etc., the windows, etc. So
Yeah.
I wanted to learn a little bit about from your experience how that is, and yeah, where you see why those mistakes come from, and what can be done
Yeah.
against.
Yeah, sure. Well, I have been working with the same people for 20 years now.
Great. Yeah.
So that is also very important, because of course I worked with other people during these 20 years.
Yeah.
But I landed with this, they are three brothers that are in construction since they were very young.
Yeah.
They know a lot of about
Yeah.
construction because they were working at a very young age.
Yeah.
And truly, I kind of developed a very good relationship with them. And so, of course, I worked, as I was telling you, with other people in between, because sometimes they couldn't do the job, or because they actually had a big construction
Yeah. Project.
themselves,
Mm-hmm.
a firm, yeah. So what I learned about this is that sometimes I earn less because I know I hire them, and they're a little bit more
And
expensive than hiring directly the plumber or the electrician or
yeah.
whatever. But at least I have someone that I can trust
Mm.
on site, and he is very loyal to me.
Mm.
I have to say, we have a very good friendship
Mm.
with
Yeah.
so many years. um, and I know that if I have a problem, of if there's any problem on the job, that of course sometimes it will happen, he always finds a way to find a solution.
Mm.
And he kinds I don't have a problem working, of course, directly with the other people, because actually working for them for several years, I almost know everyone who works for them.
Mm.
But it is very important to have someone on site that you can trust completely,
Mm.
and that is very important. At least I have this one person that I can trust completely. I know he will be there.
mm,
And if I'm not there, he's there. So we are permanently connected. I know in when I have a job, I don't mind if it is a little job, a reform in a bathroom, or if it's a house or whatever. But I try to be every day on site, at
mm,
least if it's, that's why I try to work near my area, in the
mm,
same area,
yeah,
because I try to go to the site every day. I want to see what they're advancing, if there's any kind of problem. Even though you go every day to the construction, you will see that every day there's a little problem. It
yeah,
can be anything. It can be that the materials didn't arrive, or they don't have a specific tool, or whatever, or someone didn't come, so it's fewer people working. So if you can show, I'm not saying every day, but you have to be on
mm,
site. You have to be there. It's not the same that you kind of or if you're not there, you have to have someone, as I was telling you before, that you can trust, and they communicate with you permanently. I tell them, I'm a little bit obsessed, but I tell them to show me, to film, to take
mm,
pictures so that I can see what they're doing, what
mhm,
they did during the day. Um, and they don't mind because they know me and they know that
yeah,
I'm like that. So
good, good,
they know what's are coming.
yeah,
They know that they have to show me everything. So yes, I think that is very important. You have to be there, or you have to have someone that you can trust
mm,
fully and has kind of the same experience as you have, to be there for any kind of problems. And I think the client truly appreciates it, because it's something that my clients always tell me, it was great, the experience, your people were great, we appreciate that you were here almost every day, or the other person.
yeah,
That is very important. I think that's a huge advice I would tell you. You have to be there.
yeah,
After 25 years, I still go every day when I have a job.
mm,
It doesn't matter if it's big or small or whatever, but the client will appreciate that.
thank you. Mm. Uh, Romina, you gave a lot of valuable advice here, really much, and I could
Oh, thank you.
and I could continue talking with you for hours. Especially there are so
Yeah, I would
many.
be glad. We can do a part two.
Yeah, that would be really
To
nice.
be continued.
Yes, yes.
Let's
Because we
think about that.
Yeah, because I would love to learn also about more about your experience having your own architecture firm and how that is, as well as how it is being an interior design, being in interior design, which is also a big part of being an architect, because you can have the nicest building of all, but if it's inside uncomfortable,
Yeah.
then it's no worth. Yeah, but so there will definitely be a part two, and thank you very much for sharing so many insights. It was
Yeah, my
really, really
pleasure. I would love to share that with you. And I have a lot of ideas, so of course.
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I wanted to ask you if you could share where the audience can get in touch with you if they maybe want to ask some questions directly to you. Of
Of
course, they
course.
can write in the comments, but maybe you have some somewhere. Thank you.
Well, if you want, then I can write to you, because I don't know if I can spell it, because it's
Okay.
pretty large. My Instagram,
Yeah.
it's Arquitecta Romina Shema. It's
Mm.
kind of difficult, but I can write it to you, and then you can post it or whatever. And I don't have any problems if they want to ask me anything. I would love to answer them. And of course, also, I would like to have this podcast, so I can put it in my Instagram, so I
Oh,
can show it,
yeah. Thank you very
and they
much.
can see you too.
Thank you very much. Of course, I'll let you know once I edit it, and then I'll send it to you as well. And it was
Yeah,
really
please
nice talking to you.
make me look good, please.
Of course, of course.
If you have to use a filter or anything, use it.
No, 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 no. It's perfect like um,
I'm an older person, please.
yeah, and because yeah, and I think or I'm definitely sure that what you shared is not only helpful for me, but for a lot of other people who are thinking about getting into architecture or who are studying architecture right now. And you shared a lot of different um, perspective, but also different angles to look at, and maybe that are not um, that you don't have in mind when you are studying university or when you're just thinking about university and architecture, excuse me, in general. So thank you so much for that, Romina.
Oh no, it's totally my pleasure. I would love to talk. I would be hours talking about this. So,
Thank
and
you.
it was a pleasure talking to you. You're very kind.
Thank you. And I'll add, I have your Instagram here, Architecta Romina Shema. So, and
Wow.
I'll add the link in the description so people can directly message you there. And
Yeah, of course.
thank
Of
you,
course. I would love to answer them.
thank you so much for taking the time, and
Thank
we
you.
definitely stay in touch.
Okay, to be continued.
Yes.
Bye.
Okay. Goodbye, Romina. Goodbye. Thank you very much
Bye.
again.